On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I'm going to explain to you how to utilize technology to automate your workflows and your key processes. These technologies are critical to properly running a fee-based financial planning practice.
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know. Learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com.
And now for our feature segment.
Now, I'm going to just jump right into things here because there's a lot to talk about in this episode. Now, I'm going to make an extremely important connection between technology and automating your workflows and processes so your business runs like a business and doesn't just become a glorified job. You see, the reason you're in this business or are thinking about getting into the fee-based financial planning business is not because you want to do more work. It's because you want to add value to the relationships you make by promising to do specific things related to making people's financial affairs better. It's very simple. And you're going to do this by way of a unique process. And this is what I'm promoting basically in how to set things up so you can properly articulate your value. When you go through the process of exploring what your promise is to your clients and exploring what the process is you're going to use to deliver it, you're pretty much going to be designing a unique process for yourself that you follow in order to work with your clients. And this is simply just an extension of your uniqueness. It's not something where I'm saying, and I've said this before, I don't want people to take a look at what I'm doing and how I do it and just say, okay, that's the way to do it. I don't want people to do that. I want people to take a look at it and see it as what I consider it as a foundation, basically the raw core overview of what I think makes sense, and then make it your own. Take what I do and make it better for yourself. What I do, I'm not saying what I do is the best and what the way I do it is the best for everybody, but what I am saying is that it works. It works extremely well for me. So instead of reinventing the wheel, take a look at the process, determine what about it works for you, and then use it, but then make it your own. You want to make it your own because when you do that, you end up basically saying, I'm going to make this process so unique to me, I make it bulletproof because now I have no competitors because no competitor is able to do it the way I do it. So that's really what you want to focus with this. So the reason you're in this business, remember, is to help people, to really add value to the relationships with your clients. It's not to sell products. It's not to just sell more. That just comes with adding value. So you want to really focus on putting your process together and making it an extension of you. Now, I want you to create a business that has less and less reliance on you so that you can spend more time doing what you love, knowing everything else is being taken care of the way you want it to be without your needing to do it all yourself. It's called being an entrepreneur. That's the essence of being an entrepreneur. Getting in this business and starting your own business is not about just finding more things you can do for yourself. In essence, what you want to do is you want to find people that can do a lot of the work for you and basically support the business model that you're creating so that it frees you up to do more of what you love to do. By completing this section, you'll have a much clearer idea of what it means to build a fee-based financial planning business that is, as Dan Sullivan puts it, self-managing. So understanding that at this stage of your business, your goal is to focus on making your business self-managing and self-sustaining. It's going to allow you to make better decisions on what to focus your energies on for maximum return. Doing so is going to allow you to build a business that not only runs itself, but one that allows you to have more fun, make more money, spend time on what you feel is important, and you build long-term financial security into the whole process. So by taking the time required to get clear on what it is that you do and embrace the technology that can be used to support the process, you're going to deliver on your promises to your clients so much better. You make your clients just feel so good for choosing you because they see everything is being taken care of. And what you're doing in the process is you're really building yourself a lifestyle business, one that enhances your life as opposed to detracting from it. You know, a lot of times people get into this business and they just start doing more and more and more. I mean, they're the term that's been used before as the rugged individualist, and they're just doing everything themselves. And they get to a point where they have to make a choice. They either add more people to their business and bring on support and try and manage a team, or just simply get out because they can't continue doing it themselves. And the reality is that nobody in this business really can build a long-term business and just do it themselves. They've got to start building teams around them, and they've got to start building processes around them, and they have to take advantage of technology. It's amazing how many times I go into other advisors' offices, or I speak with other advisors, and I'm just amazed at what they're not doing, I should say. I mean, they're not using technology, and I don't know how they get anything done in a day, because I know what it takes for us to get our work done in a day. And I think, my gosh, if I didn't have these technologies and these processes, how the heck would any of this stuff get done? And the reality is there's probably a lot of nervous energy, and there's probably a lot of anxiousness and fear, downright fear in the mind of the financial planner, because they probably have so much on their mind that they can never get their mind off of it, and they can never just kind of get themselves away from it. So, really focus on what I'm saying here, that, building this business is more about building the processes and using the technology that can help you run your business so that you can do the stuff that you really like to do better. Now, deciding to put in the time and effort is easy once you have a track to run on, and you can see the what I call the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, when you know what it is you need to do, it's so much easier to execute it. However, not putting in the time and effort required and methodically building these processes into your business will lead to experiences that will motivate you to follow a path that is painful and demoralizing. Continuing to do it the way you've always done it will simply get you more of what you've got. The bottom line is that you're going through this material not because you want more of what you've got. It's because you want more of what you see as possible. Without the direction and ability to execute on what needs to be done to take your business to the next level, you're undoubtedly faced with added frustration from compliance, added frustration from always being seen as, a salesman, as opposed to being seen as a true professional. I mean, in this business, we have a choice. We have so many choices that we can make ourselves and make our business really be seen as a great quality shop to work with, or we can always be seen as that guy. And, the reality is we all know that guy, and I don't know anybody that likes him. So focus on really building true professional practices into your business. Your confidence is going to be consistently challenged, and people who you really want to work with are going to be repelled by your negative energy if you don't follow this path. It's going to keep you away. It's going to keep the exact people you want to work with away from you. So if you don't turn your head around, turn your energy around, and focus on really building a true professional practice, you're just going to keep on attracting the people that you've already got. And the reality is you probably don't want more of them. So now, remember the excited energy you had when you first got into this business. Remember the enthusiasm you threw at everything you did. It was infectious. You truly saw that your future was bigger than your past. This is what you have in front of you today: a well-documented roadmap of proven methodologies and best practices that will allow you to have more fun, make more money, work with the people who energize you, and spend time on the things that make you happy and build true financial freedom in the process. That is an amazing thing. The ability to do that, there are very few businesses that allow you to do that. There are very few industries that truly allow you to do that. And this is one of them. So really find that energy back, because there's a lot you can do to make things amazing. In order to make what I'm about to outline for you work, you're going to need to open your eyes to what is and what could be, and put aside how you want it to be. Okay? And I'm going to say that again. In order to make what I'm about to outline for you work, you're going to need to open your eyes to what is and what could be, and put aside what you want it to be. Robert Pirsig, the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, he said it best in his quote. He says, "The truth knocks at the door and you say, 'Go away, I'm looking for the truth.' And so it goes away." It's kind of puzzling. Simply understand that a fee-based financial planning model that focuses on education-based marketing practices, that's based on total transparency and better financial conversations with your clients, is exactly what your clients and the marketplace is looking for. The fact that you may be scared to follow this path doesn't make the path wrong. It just makes you scared to follow it. So put your seatbelt on and get your Evernote notepad ready, because it's time to reveal to you exactly what you need to do for all of these benefits to be true for you. So we're going to start with the next stage called the securing the future stage. Okay. In previous episodes, I've talked about the building a foundation stage, and it's really about, getting everything you need, the foundation that you need in place in order to get through that first stage of your business, which is really just establishing something. Now, the securing the future stage, this is the stage where your primary focus is to build your business so it's self-sustaining and self-managing. This is where you build your true lifestyle business. And the only way you can do this is if you nail down the following items. Is your business predictable? Is your business repeatable? And is your business replenishable? So where do we begin as a fee-based financial planner who's interested in running a business, not just creating a job? Well, as I said before, you need to know what your offer is and who your offer is ideally suited to. Once you know that, then you now need to identify the core areas of your business so that you can apply the three components of the securing the future stage to each of those key components of your business. Now remember, the three components were, is your business predictable, repeatable, and replenishable? So what are the core components, the key core components of a fee-based financial planning business? Well, there's really four of them. Core number one is marketing. Core number two is sales. Core number three, fulfillment, and the final one is profit. So let's spend some time on each one of these and really go through the three components, being predictability, repeatability, and replenishable. Okay, so starting with core number one, which is marketing. When you think of marketing is like air to a human being, right? Air to a human being. You can't exist without air for very long. So the equivalent to air to a human, to a business, is leads. You need leads. Without air, you can't last very long. Without leads, you can't last very long. So where do you start in the process of really trying to determine how do you get good qualified leads? Well, the first thing I'd recommend is you find a market niche and ask yourself, or your market, you can just go right to the market and ask them, what are their biggest frustrations? What are the biggest frustrations that they have with your industry? Now, by doing this is actually kind of an interesting way of approaching it, because, if you went up to somebody and said, listen, what are, when you ask it in such a way that you say, what are your frustrations with your current financial planner or your current advisor or whatever? Well, if they know you're an advisor, what they're starting to really feel is they kind of feel like you're kind of prospecting. You're really trying to, find ways to get yourself in there. It's just, there's a tone or a feel or a sense that it's kind of like you're just trying to do something sneaky. Well, going at it this way, where you say, listen, I'm doing some research. I'm a financial planner, as you may, or they may not know you or whatever. And you say, listen, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what the biggest frustrations are that people in an area that I work a lot with, whether it be business owners or retirees or whoever it happens to be. I'm asking questions of people in that segment. And the question I'm asking is, what are your biggest frustrations with the financial industry? Well, that's kind of an open-ended question. And what it does is it really allows people to say, well, I'm totally free to explain my frustrations because nobody's trying to get anything from me. And you know what? They're going to have frustrations with our industry. Everybody does. Well, gather those frustrations together and write a report, or, find free content or find content that's available in the marketplace that will solve all of the problems, all of the frustrations that the market, the interviews you've put together, whatever their frustrations are, find the solutions to those frustrations and provide a report to them that is free to that target market, basically answering all those frustrations. That's where I'd start in kind of building what I consider your core marketing strategy for a particular niche, is to really focus on their frustrations. So this report is then going to be delivered electronically. So you'll need their email address. So how do you get their email address, right? And this is kind of where the whole marketing process starts to then become a nurturing process. Well, you're going to obtain the email address by offering the free content that you've put together, some free content that is really valuable to somebody because it answers a lot of their main questions and frustrations. You're going to put that content together and you're going to offer it to them for free in exchange for their email. And so you're going to do it through what's called a content page or a squeeze page or a landing page. I mean, there's a lot of terms for it, but basically you're going to offer it through a page on the internet, which basically says it forces them into making a decision. It squeezes them into making a decision. That's where the concept or the terminology squeeze page came from. A squeeze page is basically a page that's designed for one purpose. And its simple purpose is for people to make one decision. And the decision they're making is, do they either request the information or do they leave? Don't give them any other things that they can do on that page. If you give them other options, then you're going to lower your lead capture rates, because when people get to the page, sometimes, people have sort of an internet ADD when they get there, and if there's things to click, they click them, and then it takes them down this rabbit hole, and they never know where they're going with things. Well, when somebody hits your landing page, they're there because something you put together intrigued them. So you don't want to give them lots of options once they get there. You want to give them one decision to make. Request the information or leave. So if they want the content, they're going to provide you with an email address so that, they can get the content electronically. Now, if you're requesting email addresses, be careful on how much information you request. I've seen too many landing pages where you go there and they ask for your name, your first name, your last name, your email address, your home address, your phone number, and they have it all set as required fields. Well, you know what? I get there and I'm like, forget it. I don't want the information that bad, because I now know that this person is going to just start spamming me. So what I do is, in putting together our content pages, is I basically just say, look, just give me your first name and your email address, and then I'll send you the information right over. So it basically it reduces the barrier to entry or the barrier to capturing that content for them, and it basically gives me a higher capture rate of their email address. Now, so if they want the information, they're going to request the information by giving the email address. If they don't want it, they're just going to leave. And that's good, because you don't want to deal with people. You don't want to deal with nurture people who aren't really interested in what you have to offer. So I've mentioned the word nurturing, and nurturing is so important when it comes to the education-based direct response marketing that I promote. And so nurturing those leads really is what's important to it, because now you have an opportunity to build a relationship, an online relationship, albeit, but it's still a relationship that is going to allow you to gain some confidence in your market's eyes. And so for the people who you've exchanged email address for content with, you're going to nurture those leads. So set up an autoresponder email system that's going to handle all of the delivery communication of your content. Because remember, I don't want this to turn into a job for you. Once you set this process up once, well, it's going to run for you. But you don't want to have it set up where you've got to do this manually all the time, because doing it manually is just a pain in the ass, and it's just not something you want to do. So set up an autoresponder email system that handles all of your delivery and communication, and then you're simply going to build your email list this way. And I've talked about different ways of doing this in the past, but if you go to the website, fee-basedfinancialplanningmastery.com, there's a whole list of all the tools that I use, all the services that I use there. And the one that I'm using right now is Aweber, and it's really the best one I find, because it has a lot of good quality best practices built into it. So, for example, the biggest best practice, and because I'm in Canada, we've got this new anti-spam legislation, and these laws are very, very strict. And so we want to make sure that we always have consent from our prospective clients and the people who we're communicating with. We want to have their consent, and we want to have that documented. And so what we do is, by using Aweber, we're able to have what's called a double opt-in. And what that means is that when somebody requests the information, they're going to request the information, and then we instantly send an email to that email address that they've indicated that they want the information delivered to. We instantly send them an email to that email address saying, hey, we just wanted to confirm that this email address is real. And second of all, we wanted to give you the link that you can click on, which is then going to give you access to the information you've asked for. So if you click on this link, you're going to get the information. If you don't click on the link, well, then you're not going to get the information, and we're not going to bother communicating with you from this point forward. So this basically just makes sure that when they click on that link, that's their consent. They're saying, yes, I want this information, and I want to have an online relationship with you. And so it simply allows us to have that documented in our system, so that if we ever get, and we never have, but if we ever get anybody who complains, then we always make sure that there's an unsubscribe section on the emails that we send out. But that way we can always say, well, hey, on this date you actually requested this information, so this is why we're sending it to you. Now, remember, at this stage, it's not the initial building a foundation stage. I mean, the building foundation stage that we talked about, this is where you really need to know who your services are for and who they're not for. And you need to get very clear on that. So once you've done that, you now can get very clear on who you're going to campaign, what sort of campaign you're going to put together and you're going to design, so that you can start focusing on who your target market is. And, I've said this before, that you don't want to necessarily, I've never been able to target or niche down my business so that I have one target market, but I have been able to identify target markets that I want to work with and then focus on those markets. And so it just allows me to niche my campaigns, not my business. Okay, so let me give you an example of how I put all this together. And this is basically the way that we're making our marketing predictable, repeatable, and replenishable. Okay, so I'm going to give you a sort of an overview of how this works. So let's say you want to target families who've made it through, what I call the tough years, the newborn years, the lack of sleep years, the always tired years. In other words, you feel that this market is a great market that you want to work with, and it's a particular niche you want to focus on. So if you develop some content that will answer some of the particular niche's biggest questions, things like, whatever those questions are, I mean, you focus on that market and you ask that market, what are your biggest frustrations? You could title the report that you put together something like, the 3 biggest mistakes families with children under 5 make with their finances and how to avoid them. Now, you see what I've done there? I mean, I've really targeted down the content. So who's going to request that content? Do you think somebody who's just approaching retirement is going to request that content? Well, I mean, they might if they have a child who has a child, or if they have a grandchild under 5 and they want some information for their children, but they're not going to request it necessarily for them. Another example would be, a report called saying, warning, the 6 key questions a proper financial planner should never ask you during your first meeting. A free consumer awareness guide helping new families find a financial planner who they can build a lifelong relationship with is available for instant download at, and then you basically put your website. So you can see how we're starting to promote that content to particular targets that are really going to be interested to read that content. And now I know a lot about that group of people. Now, you need to find a crowd of people so you can identify who in that crowd is interested in your content. So this next step protects you from wasting money on people who aren't interested in your content. So what I mean by that is, if there's a crowd of people and you say, okay, well, I know there's probably a couple of people in there who would be sort of fit my target market, but I don't know who they are. How do you identify who they are? Well, some of the ways you do that is you would say, well, listen, I have a piece of content that is titled The 3 Biggest Mistakes Families with Children Under 5 Make with Their Finances and How to Avoid Them. So you promote that content to that crowd. And guess what? The people in the crowd who have children under 5 that want to know about the biggest mistakes that they could make from a financial standpoint, and they want to know how to avoid them, they're going to raise their hand. they're going to request that information. So they're going to identify themselves. Other examples of how to find crowds are basically just look at, a 10-mile radius of your office. So you can prepare what's called an unaddressed ad mail flyer drop to those targeted neighborhoods. You can use local social media ads, and it's interesting. Social media, I find that a very intriguing medium for doing advertising. And, I've talked to too many financial planners in my travels, and we talk about marketing, and then I say, one of my most successful marketing campaigns is done through Facebook. And they look at me like, "Oh, I'm not on Facebook," and they use that as a bit of a badge of honor. I'm too good for Facebook, or I don't waste my time on something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, seriously, you're actually going to poo-poo something that is basically transforming the way people communicate with one another. So that's what I'm saying when I mentioned earlier, you got to get out of your own way. Don't look at things for how you think they should be. Maybe you don't feel that it's appropriate, that Facebook is worth anything, or that you should waste any time on Facebook. Maybe that's how you feel. Fine. But guess what? There are so few financial planners, financial professionals on Facebook that you can basically stand out in that crowd. And you know what? Stand in line at a bank, at a grocery store, anywhere. Look at everybody who's standing in line and look at what they're doing. I would say 80 to 90% of them are at some point going to be looking at their phones. They're going to be looking at their iPhones or their Androids or their tablets or whatever it happens to be. And while they're waiting, they're going to check their Facebook feed. They're going to check their Twitter feed. They're going to check their LinkedIn feed. They're going to check some social media. Why? Because it keeps them engaged. So if you're not there, you're missing that boat. There are so many opportunities that you can get in front of your marketplace. You just need to take advantage of them. But you need to sort of, again, hopefully listening to this type of information, you are going to start to understand and appreciate how you can do so in a very professional way. I'm not asking you to suddenly become, a social butterfly and start communicating with all these people on social media and trying to engage in conversations. I've been to different conferences where, I hear all these people say, "Oh, you need to get involved in the conversations with people. And you need to find conversations that are going on and kind of weasel your way into those conversations to sort of become known in that marketplace." And, it doesn't really sit well with me. Because I almost envision it when you're at a big party or something like that. And, let's say you walked in and you didn't know anybody. Well, it's very uncomfortable to sort of go and weasel your way into a conversation, although it's important. I mean, you do want to do that, but you don't want to be known as that guy that just kind of weasels in and just starts, you want to somehow find your way into conversations that are already going on, where you're almost invited into the conversation. So that's the way I approach things on Facebook and any of the social media that we use, is that you kind of want to just bring yourself into the conversation that's already going on and kind of get invited to the conversation. So how do you do that? Well, one of the best ways of doing that is to create content that's going to invite the conversation, that's going to promote the conversation, or basically initiate the conversation. So ways of doing that would be through identifying. And again, would be identify magazines that you might like to read, or that you feel your target market might like to read. New parent magazines in this example, or sports magazines, or music magazines, or, kid magazines, or health and fitness magazines. And then go to Facebook, and I'll use Facebook as an example here because this is where we've actually had some success. Go to Facebook and go to the company pages for these magazines, and other magazines that are sort of in the same realm. Then you can create a post on your Facebook company page and promote that post to the followers of those magazines, and narrow the focus to those people who have liked those magazines. So when I say like the magazine, like the Facebook pages, who have liked those pages and who are geographically located in your area. You don't want to waste any of your marketing dollars on marketing to areas that you can't service. So don't. So focus your energies on the people who are part of a crowd that really you feel kind of, resonate with your target market. And then in that crowd, ask the people who really are interested in what you have to offer to raise their hand. You see how targeted you can get with this? Now, I haven't given you an example here where you need to go and weasel your way into a conversation. I'm just saying, start a conversation, and you'll be amazed at how many people will start to reach out if you've done it in such a way that it starts to promote a question and an answer type experience. So you really can get targeted. And with Facebook being so large, I find the problem with that is that it's, I want more and more people to get onto Facebook, because the more people that can get onto Facebook, especially more people in my area, then I've got more people in my targeted area that I can focus on. And you're going to promote the free content and drive them back to your landing pages for this content so you can obtain their email address and then deliver that information free of charge and start your automated email nurturing campaign. Another example would be local newspapers. Using some sort of an education-based direct response ad of some sort to promote your content is really important. Find a local newspaper, put your ad in it, and the ad. I want to talk a little bit about the ads here. I'm not saying put an ad for your company, because nobody really cares. I'm not saying put an ad where you promote who you are and what you do, because nobody really cares at this point, anyways. But what you do want to do is you want to promote something that's valuable to your marketplace. So, the ad really, in my mind, is just going to be a headline. And it's going to be a headline with a call to action to your website or your landing page. So an example would be, warning, the 6 key questions a proper financial planner should never ask during your first meeting. Free consumer awareness guide helps young families with children under 5 find a financial planner they can trust in their area. Download your free report now. Go to www.6keyquestions.com or whatever it happens to be. And so now what you've done is you've given them a place to go to identify themselves as being somebody interested in your content, but based on the content that they're requesting, you know a lot about that group. So you see how you can really start to target this? And now, by automating it and by setting all this up, you can really build some predictability to the process, repeatability to the process, and you can keep on replenishing different markets or different targeted areas with your content that's going to just continue to bring on leads. So, so you can see how that all comes together. So, being predictable. So, at the end of the day, how is utilizing a strategy like this for your marketing predictable? Well, by being able to measure your results, you can determine a few things. For every dollar you put into your marketing campaigns, after 12 months, you can answer the question, what return did you generate on those dollars? Do you know how difficult traditional advertising is to track? I mean, if you put a billboard up, how many people, if you put a billboard up and all of a sudden at the end of the 12 months, you say, okay, it cost me a few $1,000s to put a billboard up. I mean, I don't know what it costs to put a billboard up because I've never done that. But let's say it costs a few $1,000s. So it costs you a few $1,000s. So then you want to ask yourself, well, did I make any money off of investing that $2,000? Well, the only way to know for sure is if you can attribute the new clients that you brought on with that particular billboard. So how do you do that? Well, traditionally you can't. And so it's one of the reasons why marketing agencies have just been, able to extract so much money from business owners' wallets because, maybe what they've found is that the sales have gone up. But if the sales went up, they have no way of attributing it back to whether or not it was just simply they had better marketing that was doing it and it was the marketing, or maybe it was something else completely independent of any marketing. And so how are you going to know for certain if the marketing's working? Well, in this case, because you can then track exactly where those leads came from. So if you send out a flyer and then you got 10 leads on this particular landing page, well, you want to set it up so that flyer was the only flyer you sent out and the only way anybody could have found out about that landing page. So if somebody signed up to the landing page, it had to have come from that flyer. And then you can start to track using your technology. And in our case, we use Salesforce.com. You can track all the revenues that are generated from that lead and track it back to the initial campaign that started it all. So there's a really great way of doing that. So, if it costs you $1,000 to run a Facebook campaign for the quarter and then let's say that generated a new client, which, generated $10,000 in revenue. Well, then that means you just turned $1,000 into $10,000. That's a 10 times multiple. So here's the crazy part. Your marketing is now free for the next 10 months because you just turned 1,000 into 10. So now you get your 1,000 back plus another 9,000. So you can now go and do 10 more months of that $1,000 advertising, and it doesn't cost you anything. You see the power in that? It's just amazing how you can do that. Now, if you know that 10,000 generated a certain number of leads, and you know what those number of leads, if you get a certain number, then it's going to translate into new business. You can now start to really scale your whole marketing efforts. So that's kind of how it becomes predictable. So by using a methodology like this, you know, do you think we can do it again? You know, do you think if you took $1,000 ad that you put in the local paper and it generated one new client, and you think if you did it again the next month, do you think it would generate another client? Well, the reality is if it worked the first time, it's probably going to work the second time. So yeah, it becomes predictable. It becomes repeatable. It's something you can do over and over again once you know your numbers. And really, this is something where you make your decisions based on the numbers. So then the question is it replenishable? Can you see how using this process allows you to replenish your leads month after month after month? I mean, you're just constantly adding more and more leads to your system because you know every time you do it, it's going to work. And you're not ignoring the leads from the current month as they're going on to an automated nurturing system. So now it kind of snowballs. Leads you get in January, now you've got a whole nurturing system. Leads you get in February are going to also go through the nurturing system. But now you've got twice the number of leads going through. So you can just keep on snowballing and really build that lead database up so that you have, you know, thousands and thousands of leads who you're working with who have all identified themselves as people who might be interested in something that you have to offer. So this is how you set up your core marketing component of your business. Doing it this way just simply now gives you rationale for doing something. You know, it gives you the confidence in knowing that when I do something, it's going to translate into something good. Okay, so now let's talk about core number 2. Core number 2 is sales. And sales are, again, critical to the whole process. If you can't convert those leads into sales, then you're wasting your money on generating those leads because you need to be able to have a conversion process and a sales process that will convert those leads into actual revenue paying clients. So you need to create a predictable, repeatable, and replenishable process for converting your leads into sales. So let's get into the details on how to make the sales component of your business predictable, repeatable, and replenishable. So we're going to talk about the predictability first of all. To make your sales process predictable, you need to map it out so you know what you're doing at each stage. The process starts when the marketing process ends. Okay, so sales takes over when marketing ends. Once your marketing is done, your marketing has done its job when it's generated a lead that actually gives you a call and says, "Hey, I'd like to get together." That's what the marketing process. Marketing brings that lead up to your door. But then once that lead is at your door and they've now become what I call a prospect, that prospect, you now have to have a good, reliable process that you go through that you know will work in helping to convert that lead or that prospect into a client. So the sales process starts when the marketing process ends. This is when the lead reaches out to take advantage of a free, no obligation initial meeting. So, we can break this into a whole variety of steps. So step 1, for example, could be where you convert the lead on your system to a prospect and create a financial planning opportunity that you're going to be tracking. And so this is kind of what we do in our Salesforce.com instance. So on our system, we convert the lead into a contact or a prospect, and we create an opportunity because now we've identified an opportunity that we're going to be working on for that prospect. Then you book the initial meeting and associate this meeting with the new opportunity so that when you click on the opportunity, you can see what's happening with that particular opportunity. You're going to then email the prospect, and you're going to email them a new prospect welcome email. Something that says, "Hey, welcome to, I want to welcome you to your first initial meeting. Looking forward to getting together with you," and then put some other information together there. And really what that email is going to do is it's going to outline everything they need to know about their initial meeting. and provide them with directions on how to get to your office. So one of the things we do is that we put custom directions in that email, which basically says we know the address that you're coming from because we probably obtained it. We obtained it from you when you called to book your appointment. We basically asked for your information at that point. We put it onto our system. But now that we know where you're coming from and we know where you're going to, because we know where the meeting is going to be, I can send you a Google map with those 2 coordinates on there, giving you the exact directions on how to get there. It's kind of cool when somebody gets an email and they open it up and says, wow, this is not only just a general welcome email, but it's customized to me to tell me exactly how to get to the office. It's appreciated. That level of detail is appreciated. So basically, you can have your assistant then prepare that information, and then our system then triggers our assistant to prepare the initial documents to be used at the first meeting. Then we go through the first initial meeting, and it's important to script out how this meeting unfolds so it becomes more of a routine. And I've discussed this in previous episodes as exactly what you should be saying at this initial meeting, because there is a process. And so, as I said before, take the process that I use, go through it, learn it, and then make it your own. You don't want to be doing it exactly the way I do it because it might not roll off your tongue the way it rolls off my tongue. You'll want to do something and just kind of tweak it a bit so that it sounds more like you. And you want to write this down. You want to document what it is that you're saying so that you can learn what you're saying and actually go back and say, okay, did that work? Was there a point during the meeting when maybe, I don't know, I felt like I started to lose them a little bit? So you can then go and tweak that section of the conversation, knowing that that has kind of been scripted out for you. Then at the end of the first meeting, really the goal of the first meeting is to determine if it makes sense to have a second meeting. So if it does make sense to have a second meeting, then you indicate that on your system, and then you're going to book the second meeting. And what we do at that point is we'll provide that prospect with an information package. If we know they're going to be coming back and getting together with us for a second meeting, we're going to provide them with an information package, which really has a checklist of all the information they need to bring with them to the second meeting, what they can expect. It really just gives them an overview of what they're getting into with that second meeting. And we're going to then prepare after they've left the office then, and we've booked that first meeting, we're going to prepare a first meeting summary letter and mail it out to the prospect. And we're doing that because we want them to know that we were listening. We want them to know that we're paying attention. And so a lot of the information in that letter is actually customized to what that conversation and how that conversation unfolded. Then between that, so then we send that out. So a few days after that, they receive that letter in the mail. Then we're going to have a second meeting for whatever time frame it was booked for. We're going to have that second meeting and we're going to review the documents that they brought with them. Because remember, we gave them a checklist of information to bring with them. So we're going to review those documents with them in detail so that we can get very clear on what it is that this particular client needs us to do for them. And then we're doing that so that we can get clear on what it is that we have to do so that we can provide them with an appropriate fee, because we're going to be presenting to them what our fee is going to be in order to move forward to help them with the work. At that point, it's either going to be a yes or no decision. If it's a yes, they want to move forward with things. We go ahead, we sign the letter of engagement. We go through the letter, and it's very important to actually read through the letter with them, page by page. Even though it feels like it's taking time, make sure you read through it with them. And, I've talked about why this is, but at the end of the day, it really just engages them more in getting a true understanding about what it is they're getting involved with, and it actually enhances the experience. So then if they, if they're saying yes, we want to move forward with everything, then everything's great. We, basically end our meeting at that point. We've obtained their credit card information. We've swiped the credit card on our iPhone. We've now received half the fee up front, and we're now all set to go for the first plan presentation meeting. And so what happens there is that gets all booked on the system, and our system then knows how to do all the follow-up for what has to happen next and next and next in order to get through the actual delivery of that financial plan. So you see how the whole process can become very predictable. It's predictable in a way that it's something that you know what's going to happen at the meeting. So, you know what's going to happen, and therefore you know what the results are pretty much going to be. Now, it's also repeatable because since you've mapped all this out, you can kind of program how all of the execution of it unfolds on your systems so that it happens on an automated basis, so that you know for every meeting you always have the appropriate documents, because every time that meeting gets booked, it triggers a task to be put on your assistant's desk that says, hey, you need to put this package together, and here's the package that you can put together. So you just kind of document the workflows and processes for doing all of that. And that's the sales process. Once you've got that core sales process down, you now know because I know when I meet with somebody, when they've come in through an education-based direct response marketing program, I know we've kind of qualified them. I know that we've really identified key people who would benefit from our services. So if they've made it this far, it's because the content we put together was interesting enough to them, and it really answered a lot of their questions. So they felt quite comfortable in calling me to book that meeting. So I know when they get there, the process I go through with them during those meetings, the odds are very, very high. I mean, highest they've ever been, that they're going to be moving forward with our services. Now, when they decide that they want to move forward with our services, that's basically the day that they sign all the letter of engagement. We swipe the credit card, and so we're all set. Well, now your job has just begun, because now you've actually got to fulfill on your promise. And so how do you then do that? Well, that's where we move into core number 3. Hey everybody, I want to give you a quick update on what's going on in my neck of the woods, and a shout out to some new members of the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group. Just wanted to say a good welcome to Adam Peters, John Ratchford, Ashley Manny, Robert Noose, or BJ Noose, Stuart Craig, Jaydeep Singh, Tim Chambers, Rachel Demaray, Andrea Lachen, and Emmanuel Santos. Thanks, everybody, for joining the group, and I look forward to communicating with you in the group. There's really a lot of great conversations going on in the group, and every so often there's one that, seems to connect with everybody, and people just jump onto it, and there's just a tremendous number of responses and communications back and forth on it. So it really is an active group. If you haven't joined the group, then definitely take advantage of that. As well, I've been, the last post I did on the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery LinkedIn group, I talked about Evernote and wondered if anybody was using Evernote, because I started using it. I had actually got my free subscription to it many, many years ago when it first came out. I read an article in, I think it was Entrepreneur Magazine, and it was just sort of highlighting what Evernote was all about. And it was kind of an interesting concept. But in the article, what was really interesting was that the average user, what did it say? It basically said when they started, they would get their free account, they would load a few things into the free account, and then their usage would just die right off. But they would never cancel the account. And then all of a sudden, about within 2 years, their use would just skyrocket, and it would just start taking off, and then suddenly they would embrace it. Now, what I found that was the exact experience that I had. And the reason why I found that was, you're aware of a certain tool that's out there, and it seems to be a very user-friendly tool, but it's also a tool that you just can't quite rein in. And what I found was that by spending some time, and I read another book called Evernote Essentials, and if you get a chance to read Evernote Essentials, it really is a great book, because it gives you finally the once-over that you need in order to get started with Evernote. Because one of the things that I found that with my life anyways is that I'm always coming across interesting information and interesting tidbits of knowledge, just stuff. I'm just always coming across stuff. I'm seeing things, I'm taking pictures of things with my smartphone, I'm seeing websites, I'm clipping things off my website. There's always information being thrown at me. The problem is there's just no real place to store it. And so what I would end up doing was I would email stuff to myself. So I would at least have it in my email, and I would hope that Google would be able to, recall the information that was in there. But it was really, it goes into a black hole in your email and it never comes back out again. And what I realized was that I kind of felt the same way about Evernote, is that it would go into this Evernote black hole, but I'd never know how to get it back out again until I read that Evernote Essentials. And Evernote Essentials really gave me the framework for how to organize Evernote for me. And it really does come back to two components. There's two components to Evernote. There's their notebooks and tags. And if you can get a handle on how to use both of those together, it just makes life tremendous, just amazing in its usage of Evernote. And then we've taken it a bit further. But basically what you want to do is you want to take a look at your notebooks. And notebooks are really, you can, just treat them as if you had an actual notebook and they were on certain topics. And then you would be able to put information into those notebooks that, related to that topic. And so that's one way of doing it. Now, from an organizational standpoint, what I did was I created what's an inbox. So anytime I would scan or image or clip or anything, if I didn't particularly indicate where it was to go, it went directly to an inbox. And what that allowed me to do was it allowed me after the fact that I could actually look in my Evernote desktop version or online version, and I would see what's in the inbox, and I would just resort it. The best tip that came from reading the book Evernote Essentials was the tip for how to tag. And when you use tags, you need to make sure you're using the certain tense of a tag. And what I mean by that is if you're going to be tagging something and you're going to create a tag called, I'm just trying to look at my tags here to see if I've got one here that would be a good example. Bikes, okay, or bicycles. Make sure you actually put the plural. So you don't say bike or bicycle information. You just put the term bikes or bicycles. Another example would be, documents or transcripts or marketing ideas. You want to have it more of on a plural basis. And what that does is it just, seems to make more sense to me for when I actually then want to tag something. Now, you can the tags can get away from you because anytime you create a note, you have a choice on where to put the note. So you put it into a notebook, but then you can also add a tag to it. So you can have, maybe if it's a picture, for example, I might have a picture of myself with my wife and my kids. So I would put all of our names as one of the tags, but I might put the location as well. And then that would allow me to recall that information at any time. But what's really amazing about Evernote is that it not only allows you to sort of archive that information, but the recall is phenomenal. An example of this was in our kitchen, we have a whiteboard, and whenever something, we're low on something in the fridge, we'll just go and we'll put the information, we'll write it on the whiteboard. So like one of those dry erase boards. And before we head out, oftentimes we'll just take a picture of the whiteboard of that list so that we have that list available to us when we're out so we can quickly get whatever's needed on the list. Now, I was out and I couldn't remember what was on the list, but then I couldn't remember exactly where the picture had resided in my Evernote. So all I did was I thought, well, one of the items on the list was chia seeds. I don't know if you know what chia seeds are, but they're these little seeds. And so what had happened was my wife had written chia seeds on the whiteboard. And what I did was I went and I searched for the word chia, C-H-I-A. And it actually had the ability to go in, and it found in the picture that I had taken of the whiteboard, it found the word chia. And it basically did a character recognition of it. And it said, oh, is this one of the things you're looking for? Well, because it was the only note I had that had the word chia in it. But the crazy thing was that the word was in a picture. It actually read the picture and found the note for me. So I realized that day the power that is part of Evernote, that if you have handwritten notes and that sort of thing that you take a picture of, if you're at a meeting and you happen to take a picture of the whiteboard, if you're at a conference, you take a picture of the overhead slides or anything like that, it will actually read those pictures, find characters in there, and allow you to recall that information. So once I started to see how all this tied together, I really began to realize how powerful it can be. And so I actually went out and I bought the Evernote scanner. And now everything I do when it comes into my office and comes into my desk, we just scan everything. We image everything. And it just goes right into our notebooks. I've tied it in so it's tied in with our Salesforce install. So now when I scan something, there's certain notebooks that get shared within our Salesforce database. So when I scan something, like if it's client ID or anything like that, now it instantly shows up in our database, and we can link and do what we need to with that. So, Evernote, if you haven't really taken the time to look into it, the first thing I would do is I would buy the book Evernote Essentials. If you go to Evernote, I think you can buy it from Evernote, and it's an ebook that you get. It's pretty inexpensive, but you read through that and you'll just start to really be amazed at what you can do with Evernote. And really for me, what it's become is just become a great place that when I see something that I don't want to forget, or if I come across something that I just want to make sure I've always got, I'll just go ahead and take a picture of it, take a scan of it, email it to myself, email it to my Evernote account or whatever it happens to be. And I know it's always there. And the recall is amazing. So even if you just remember a certain component, or maybe it's a location, I took some pictures of when I was at a conference, and I couldn't remember the name of a person that I'd met at that conference, but I knew I'd taken a picture of them. So I just actually looked in my Evernote, went to my the maps, and said, show me all the pictures that I took in this location. And it found the conference I was at when I took the pictures, and I was able to recall everything very quickly. So it's really turning into an amazing tool that I just can't get enough of. So definitely would recommend you take a look at that and build it into your practice.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.